Today's homicide is the leading cause of death. Today, homicide is a leading cause of death among young black men. The leading cause. Now, these are FBI statistics that I'm about to read you. They're numbers. They're numbers. Oh, it doesn't matter whether actually you're an idiot. You're stupid. Today, homicide is a leading cause of death among young black men and contributes significantly to the shortened lifespan of the black male. In about 80 to 90% of the cases, the black victim was killed by another black. 80 to 90%. I'd like to know where these black preachers are, not preaching on the black community about getting right with God and living for God. But you let a white preacher preach on truth, facts, and numbers, they get huff and puff and, you're not allowed to do that. Like it's off limits for a white preacher to care about black people. For those of you who went street preaching with us yesterday, soul winning, and handing out those gospel tracts, you saw about 5 or 6 people cross the street with their signs, Black Lives Matter. A lady came up to me afterwards, and she was very cordial. She said, I appreciate the message, but you don't have to scream and yell like that. I said, well, Jesus preached to 5,000, and Paul did. She just turned around and left. She said, I appreciate the message. I said, I can talk to you one-on-one, but when I preach, hundreds of people can hear me at the same time. I said, blind people can hear me when they're walking by. So you know how to answer. Well, it started the conversation when he came up to me. I said, if you really cared about black people, then you'd be concerned about 400,000 black babies that are murdered every year by the abortion mills. They didn't know what to say. They had signs out there, Black Lives Matter. Nice and quiet, courteous. They came to me, I said, if you really cared about black people, then you'd be concerned about the 400,000 black babies that are butchered in the womb every year. They don't care, they're a bunch of liars. You know why? Because 400,000 is a big number, ladies and gentlemen. And you're concerned about the 1, 5, or 10 blacks that were unfortunately killed wrongly by a police officer. You're concerned about the 5 or 10, maybe. Maybe. What about 400,000? I'm not saying all the police officers are innocent. You know enough about me, I'm not saying that. But most of them are decent doing their job. 80 to 90% of black males are killed by blacks. FBI statistics. This is from the Heritage Foundation. The FBI's crime data from 2011 to 2020, which is the most recent data available. The number of violent crimes has increased by almost 50% over the last 10 years. 50%. In 2011, the FBI reported 314,000 plus violent offenses. In 2020, there were 640,000 plus. The most striking figure in the data is the spike in reported homicides, which tripled from 3,500 plus offenses in 2011 to 10,500 almost offenses in 2020. In 2020, nearly 3,000 law enforcement agencies around the country opted not to send the FBI their crime data. Let me repeat that. 3,000 law enforcement agencies refused to submit their crime data to the FBI. So it's a lot worse than you think it is. It is worse than you think it is. Leaving 14.8% of law enforcement agencies and the crimes committed in their respective jurisdictions unaccounted for in the National Incident-Based Reporting System. Violent crime, especially homicide, is worse than the National Incident-Based Reporting System statistics show. According to other sources, the number of homicides in 2020 was more than double what those statistics report, 21,000 plus. The number of offenses has more than doubled in the last 10 years. The number of police officers killed feloniously is rising too. In 2021, 73 police officers were murdered, a 20-year record. These are numbers. Violent crime includes assault, homicide, and sex offenses for this rate. We found that the increase in these crimes has fallen hardest on black people. From 2011 to 2020, the percentage of violent crime victims who were black increased by 3.2% to reach a peak of 32.7% in 2020. By contrast, the percentage of total victims who were white steadily declined from 69.1% to 64.7% over the same period. The percentage of total victims who were black rose 2.9% to 54.4% in 2020. For white victims, the percentage fell 3.5% to 43.3% over the same period. The most significant changes, therefore, were that black people represent an increasing share of violent crime victims, and white people a smaller share. The true size of the problem is made starker when we consider that African Americans make up only 14.2% of the population, including multiracial populations who identify as black in combination with another race, but 32.7% of all violent crime victims and 54.4% of homicide victims. Why are you talking about this? Because these are facts and numbers that people hate. For instance, if these numbers applied to the Greek community, I'd be upset at the Greeks, man. You'd hear me railing on Greeks nonstop. If it applied to the Irish should get upset. If it applied to Italians, Italians should be upset. Why aren't the blacks upset about the blacks, but you think there's a white supremacist trend in America? And that's what your government wants to tell you. The problem with America are these white supremacists. Well, ask a question. How many white supremacists have killed people in the last 10 years? I'm not saying there isn't, but there's so few. They're making one example and blowing it completely out of proportion with the numbers that exist and the facts that exist. You know why? Because people don't care about numbers no more. God's people don't care, and even the world, the kids, they have no idea.